What does it take to be a successful entrepreneur? A dangerous amount of coffee and a ton of grit. My name is Jason Tracy, and every week I interview business leaders to share their stories, life lessons, failures, and advice with you. Welcome to Coffee and Grit. What is up? What is up? What is up? Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Grit. And you got to have the coffee. You got to have the coffee flowing. Got my coffee going. It's the end of the afternoon here, and still caffeinating up. So, man, I'm really excited. We have partner of the show, owner of Garrett Auto in Motor City Truck Collision, Kevin Brown, in for another episode. And if he seems familiar, it's because he's been in 3 episodes. This will be his 3rd episode in the past couple months, and for several reasons. One, Kevin's a highly entertaining person. My first episode, I was playing his clips back, and my wife's like, "Who is that guy?" I really like him, and she doesn't say that a lot when I'm playing the clips back. So, 2, the stories are data of soul, right? And so when we hear the stories from entrepreneurs, there's so much to learn. And Kevin has a lot to learn. And there's a lot going on in the auto industry that we don't know about, and we get to hear a really cool story today. So I'm excited to pound into it, but. What's really awesome is Kevin's been using the clips from the last 2 episodes and using them on his social media pages. And it's been really awesome how it's pulled in a really cool traffic. So for the past 90 days from Facebook alone has reached 21,000 people, which is awesome from the clip standpoint. The Instagram pages is crazy where like a clip will hit 15,000 views within the day, which is pretty cool. And again, I look at it because it's funny. I have so many friends that are creating content out there, people that are in like the coaching, speaking, content creation space that would kill for the type of traffic that Kevin's getting to his pages. And I think it comes down again to that level of authenticity, talking about things that matter to people, and again, kind of that flair and energy with what he's speaking about, which is really, really awesome. But it's really cool to see that blow up, and I'm excited to have more conversation with Kevin. So, Kevin, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me for the 3rd time.
My pleasure, man. It's always entertaining.
Yeah. I'm an entertaining guy to listen to, frankly, right? So.
It is. And again, like last time we had Jim on, and what was really cool about that episode to me is the last episode we talked about how you believed in building up your people, building up your team, and then to be able to see it and hear Jim talk about it. And then you guys really come together. I did a lot of editing through those clips and pulling out clips. I've watched that episode so many times. It's just cool to see, again, as he's talking and seeing Jim's growth, and then sitting and seeing like how proud you are of him.
Yes, Jim's came a long way. Obviously, he didn't need no help in the skills department, but as far as the business part of it, the dealership, they don't obviously tell their guys their numbers, don't tell them, they're always losing numbers if you ask management of the dealer. You just didn't do enough.
Yeah.
If you worked a little bit harder, I could make another few $100,000 this month, and you can get, this much more on your commission check. Jim being a part of it and getting part of the profits and stuff now with the company, he's really watches his numbers. And when we do an estimate, obviously we have a certain target for profit. And that's been a lot of a struggle, as you know, in the collision. And I have been doing the collision stuff for, 13 years now, because we morphed it from the crane company into the collision. So when we talk about the truck repair business today, you're going to find how vastly different it is, and it's a lot easier, believe it or not, because the insurance companies aren't involved. The insurance company's trying to do the very bare minimum to get the customer back on the road. We all know that. We've talked about it. We've gone through that. So I'd like to start talking about Garrett Auto and Truck Service, how I got involved, and then just kind of work right on through and talk about all the trials, tribulations, pitfalls, all the new latest and greatest bullshit we have to go through, and go from there.
Awesome.
Sound good?
Yeah.
So in 1995, I was working at a place called, late 94, I was working at a place called Sterling Performance. We were doing offshore boat racing engines, Don Q Crystal, Victory Team, Wonder Bar. The bars they have, the guns they have on the bar?
Oh, yeah.
The guy that was his patent at Wonder Bar. He did some car racing and stuff like that. So I came from Hale's Auto Clinic with a friend of mine, got me into the race business, and I was there, I think, a couple years. I just didn't like it. A lot of hoity-toity people that want to waste your time. Sunday's race day. You're at home. You're like watching boats blow up. You're like, oh, my God, what did I leave loose? Blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, I start looking in the newspaper, and I see a ad in the newspaper, Garrett Auto and Truck.
That's how we found jobs back in the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Back when I got off my horse at the gas station, walked in, and, couldn't take my guns, my 6-shooters, and the gas, but so I started looking. I'm like, Garrett Auto and Truck. I'm like, that's right across the street from Hal's Auto Clinic where I worked, and so I'm like, all right. I went and met Steve, did an interview, and I looked it up before I left. I got here. He started me at $11.25 an hour in 1995.
Which is probably amazing back then.
Well, that was bank.
Yeah.
And we were allowed to work overtime there because we were always behind. So we were always busy. And the reason we were always busy is because nothing ever got done. Because his dad had owned the place and he just worked there too. Steve did. His dad ran the one side of the shop was all cars and the other side was the trucks. Well, I got kind of pulled in. I think that they said I was the first real certified mechanic they ever hired. Like I was a big dollar guy, $11.50 an hour.
Yeah, yeah.
We're laying the scrap down for this guy, My first day, I'm all of a sudden, he said, we're going to have you start out doing maintenance and interview, like belts and hoses. And that's like all the gravy. Like that's what we call gravy in our business, like easy stuff, easy turn, make money if you're on flat rate, right? Well, first job, I'm doing cylinder heads on a 6.9 diesel. I'm like, how the hell did this go from doing belts and hoses to I'm doing cylinder heads on this truck? And I remember doing that job and kind of going from there. And in 1997, Steve and his dad used to fight. His dad was not a very good businessman. He just he didn't really know how to do a bill. He didn't know how to do the math. Didn't figure out his margin. Nothing. He would just, all right, it took me an hour. I don't really think that should have took me an hour. I'm going to charge him a half an hour, and I paid $4 for this part. So if I charge $8, I'm killing it. And, the place was never making money. It was always on the brink of bankruptcy. Well, in 1997, it was there. It was pretty much bankrupt. Steve and his dad were fighting back and forth. They would have these 2-day fights where they'd go in the office and scream and yell and blah, blah, blah. And he came out and he told my dad if he doesn't leave and sell me the place, he's going to go do something else. So I'm like, oh, great. I've been here for 2 years. I kind of like it here. And keep in mind, I was the guy that knew all the mechanical stuff back then. I wasn't great, but I had more experience than most of the guys, all the guys there. And so his dad ended up, retiring. His dad, Steve, bought the place bankrupt. So I remember all of our trade credit was blown. Great Lakes Truck and Trail, all the bills were behind. So I remember Steve taking over, and Steve he ended up being my best friend, but Steve was never a guy that did anything fast or never worked hard. It'll sort itself out. Don't get your panties in a bunch. Just relax, Well, I started talking to him about, I started doing my own estimates because he was too slow to do the estimates. So I'm like, well, if I'm getting paid, I knew we had to do our own estimates at Hal's Auto Clinic. Hal gave us the sheet, say, okay, mark these parts up this much, the matrix.
Yep.
So I started doing my own estimates, and I would sell these jobs. I'd call the customer and be like, okay, Jason, your car needs front, rear brakes, blah, blah. It's going to be, $4,000 with a good margin on it. You'd say, okay. Back then, I would say, okay, what's the last 4 of your social security number? So that way I'd know that you agreed to it because you had everything over the phone because the fax machine was just getting started in for us.
Yeah, yep.
And I remember I sold some of these bills, and I got called in the office by his dad. He's like, you are charging astronomical rates. I said, well, they bought it. I said, I just went and charged you what I would have charged at the other shops I worked at, at Hal's. He would lower my bills. Say the bill was $3,000, he would do it for $1,300.
Whoa.
And I took to Steve, I'm like, your dad's cutting my bills. This is all approved, sold, everything. So fast forward.
Could you imagine being that customer getting a call? We're going to cut this down from 3,000 to 1,300.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you?
Right, exactly. And Steve's dad, when I say that, Steve bought the place, Steve's dad was still there till the transition was happening. So I started doing my estimates. Steve's dad was there. He really wasn't. The transfer wasn't all the way there.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So that was kind of the thing. So once the transfer was there and Steve owned the place, I started doing all the estimates. All of a sudden, we'll just say the shop used to do $30,000 a month. All of a sudden, the shop's doing $80,000. And we weren't overcharging everybody. We were just catching up to the market.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
say everybody else's labor rate was 60, he's 32
Yeah.
an hour. So I just basically caught him up. Well, then we slowly started building, and I told him, I said, probably about 97. So I had all this in my head. So, but I think 99, I said, listen, I said, I need to either become one of the owners here, buy into this place, figure out how to get me some ownership. If not, I was going to go get a Matco tool route, which I would have done very well at now hindsight looking back. You had to be sponsored. So our Matco man, who I'd known for lots of years, was going to sponsor me, and I was going to get a tool route. Well, I remember telling Steve, I said, listen, we need to do this. And, my wife, me and his wife didn't go out. She doesn't really want to. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to sit here and keep doing this if I can't have ownership. I'm going to go. I want my own business. I want to be my own boss. So he said, all right, we'll do it. So he drug his feet for about a year and a half. And finally, I'm like, this has got to happen. So we got a hold of lawyers. He was always saying they're working on it. And the night before we were going to the lawyers, he calls me. He says, does a vice president title to you mean a lot? I said, well, that's what you agreed with me. I was going to be the vice president. Well, back then it did. Now I can give a shit what my title is.
Yep.
And he said, well, Vicky's not very happy about it. I said, that sounds like a Vicky problem. I said, he's like, I know. And he's like, if you end up, I said, I'll just go do the tool thing, and you guys Vicky can run the shop with you.
Yep. Yep.
And he's like, well, I'll go out of business without you. I said, well, if you don't.
What's it worth then?
Yeah, exactly. So he ended up gifting me 10%, because I didn't have no money back then. He ended up gifting me 10% of the company. And for every year after that, I would get 1% till he retired. So at that point, okay, now I'm working for something.
Yep.
And, I was grateful he gave me 10% of the company, but the company wasn't worth hardly anything. Because it was just getting started, you know what I mean? And so we did that, and, we kind of got to the point where I ran out of experience. Like I talked about my previous podcast, I didn't really know. I knew how to do an estimate, but I really didn't know how to calculate like all your overhead, like your fixed bills every month that come and all that. So that's when I kind of got the thing in the mail where it was a management success thing, Mike Lee.
Yep.
And we end up talking to that and going and doing that and going through that class. And that's when everything really started turning around once again. We started, hiring people. And one thing they did that I kind of got away from it. They would they would try to get you to pay your guys the very bare minimum, which wouldn't work in today's world, the very bare minimum, but put you on a percentage, kind of like the dealers still do, because it keeps people hungry. I always kind of thought it kind of keeps people a little bit crooked too. Jason Tracy goes out and spends too much money on the weekend. Guess what? You're getting brakes, ball joints. There has to be a little bit of honesty. Well, if it comes to your family in your boat payment or your customer's going to take a bath.
Absolutely.
So we kind of got away from that a little bit. I really learned how to watch the numbers and all that. And the shop kept growing and kept growing. We went through a lot of people back then. But back then, you could put an ad in the paper and get 20 people.
Yeah, yeah.
They'd be walking in the door and, begging you for a job. So you could kind of pick, the one guy, Jim Heinz, came walking in. I was out of town. Steve hired him. He ended up working there 29 years before he quit. Jason Spencer, who is now my business partner there, he walked in. He came there to help Steve do some handyman stuff like hang a waste oil heater and some other stuff. And he said, well, what about hiring this kid? Oh, that kid's such an asshole. So he's like, all right, we'll hire him, All
right, we'll hire him. Sold.
Yeah. And, we argued back and forth, but he hired him, and he was a good fit, So that one I didn't, I really didn't know. My brother worked for me. He came up. He worked in the parts department. He was a mechanic for a little bit. Then he ended up being the service writer, so running the shop. So, we've had our best luck with people that we've gotten over the years that we've trained. They kind of came in and know a little bit, but you train them the way you want them.
Yep.
And that, so I have two young guys now that we're training, and then Jason's there. We kind of run all the companies on skeleton crews now. We cannot find skilled labor. It's tough. you know. And right now, the big shakedown going on in our business is the dealerships are buying other dealerships. The big groups are buying the little guys. And what I've noticed they do is they'll leave everything alone for a year. They'll say, don't worry, we're not going to let go of anybody. And they'll sit there and they'll watch for a year what goes on. And they'll say, okay, we need to get rid of some payroll. So they'll get rid of some of these guys that have been there 20, 30 years, just walk in and axe them.
Yep.
Bring a guy in, you know, the service provider there, say he's worked there 25 years, and he's got a good rapport with all his customers. They trust him. There's customers that I call. I'm like, hey, Jason, you need this. Yeah, Kevin, go ahead and do it. I trust you. I know you're going to do it.
Yep.
They're getting rid of these guys, and they're making it all systematic, you know, and paying these guys half the money with no experience. So it's kind of, they're almost shooting themselves in the foot. Like,
well, the clip that's out on your social media today is like the power of having a guy, you know, like Jim talking about he had clients that waited for him. And then when he came to Motor City, people followed him.
yeah. And that's kind of the way it is. It's like, you know, you kind of have to have somebody you trust. And the dealerships have huge turnover because when things slow down, the other dealership on the other side of town is busy. These guys jump over there, then they'll jump back, or they'll leave for a dollar an hour or different, you know, commission schedule. So these guys, you see that like they're nervous. Like it's going on in a couple of the dealerships around us. These guys are nervous that they're going to have a job. He's like, I've worked here for 30 years, and I don't even know if I'm going to get fired tomorrow.
Yep.
You know, they just got rid of 2 guys that worked at the one body shop. They've been there for, one guy been, I think, 25 years, the other one 30. They got rid of them. They were making too much money. We can bring 2 guys in and pay them less money. Mm-hmm. And it's a numbers game. Because what they do is they build these places up, then hopefully an investment group buys the whole thing. And, you know, there's a couple going around right now. It was last year. This year they slowed down. They bought all the good shops. They bought Hal's Auto Clinic. They bought Marsh Tire. They bought several. You know, now it's Farming Hills Garage. Hal's Auto Clinic stayed the same. I know they bought a couple other of the shops, and they've kind of done the same thing. They've taken it and said, okay, this works at all our shops. We're going to do a blanket of every shop. Well, there's different. It's like you're going to get a different type of person in West Bloomfield than you are going to get in Weberville.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So how is the same plan going to work in Weberville? You know, a guy walks in that's a farmer that wants his truck fixed, and there's a guy with penny loafers and a tie on. Automatically, that guy's like, I don't trust this guy, this city slicker. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I'm seeing a lot of these shops now, they're not doing good numbers. And I ask the different salesmen that go around, hey, how's so-and-so doing? Oh, they're really having a hard time. All the good guys left. They're not making money. Like the one shop in Wall Lake, he had 2 guys that drove in from, I think one drove in from Weberville and the other one drove in from Fowlerville or somewhere out. I don't remember exactly, but he would give them a gas card. He'd say, hey, every week just fill up your car on me. That's the little things that guys appreciate,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
Guess what happened when the big company bought them? You don't need them gas cards. Buy your own damn gas. We're gonna. Yep. And I always laugh because when you get pulled in, and you've been in corporate America, hey, we're redoing the pay structure, and it's going to be good for you. This is going to be a good thing for you, Jason. So sit down. Let me go ahead and put this on a board and tell you how great me changing your pay structure is.
Guess what? You get to work harder for less. It's amazing.
Right. It's going to be good for you because you're going to lose weight because you're not going to be able to have time to eat because you have to work more. It was kind of like I was talking to the Verizon salesman. He's like, yeah, I sold 100 phones last month. Now they want me to do 150 this month.
Yeah. It's a never-ending game.
It's never-ending
If
game.
you can do 100, they look at you like, yeah, I bet you can do 150 if you, yep.
You know, and that's kind of like with these guys, they're doing that, and they change all their pay structures and all that. And I'm seeing all this going on, and, you know, mechanics it's tough being a mechanic because, you know, you have to buy your own tools. That's not cheap. You know, one socket nowadays can be $40. One socket. You know, you buy a socket set's $400. You're paying the tool man, you know, $50 a week, $100 a week, $400 a month. Think about that. You know, that's a true statement when on the Snap-on truck, the second step, past this line, you're giving me consent. You know, we laugh.
Does it say that? That's hilarious.
Yeah, then I seen that one sticker, the one guy. But it's true. It's like these guys, you know, they're forever paying. Like when I was coming up, I remember paying $50 a week. I mean, $200 a month was a lot of money. When you're making $400 a week salary, gross.
Yeah.
I used to take home like $296.10. It's burned into my brain, right? It's just like we spend that at the grocery store
Oh man.
and not even have enough food now.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of, that kind of leads me into the whole diagnostic thing. People bitch about it, AutoZone and all these people. What do AutoZone, O'Reilly's, and all they do? They sell parts, right? So there's no refund on electrical parts, right? So they say, we'll scan your car for free. We'll diagnose your car for free. Me diagnosing your car for free as a mechanic, I can't do it. I go to work. I can't afford to go out there and spend an hour saying, okay, it's got this code. I'm going to do this pinpoint test. We print it out and we go step by step, right? Versus O'Reilly's plugs it in and goes, oh, it says O2 sensor leak. You need an O2 sensor. Well, that's not necessarily true. It could have a vacuum leak causing something upstream in the system, causing that O2 sensor to read right. So it's actually reading right, but it set the code from something else. So they sell you an O2 sensor. You go to put it. They walk into my shop. Hey, where you put this O2 sensor in? The guy at O'Reilly's plugged his electric box in there, and he told him what was wrong. Well, I wish I had that box. I'd buy it if there's a box that told me what was wrong. It puts you in the general direction, right?
Okay. Yep.
So we put the O2 sensor and just say, start it up, guess what? Give the guy's car back, check engine light's still on. You didn't fix it. No. You brought it in, told me to put an O2 sensor in. That's what the guy at O'Reilly's or wherever told you. They're just doing their job. They says needs a they don't have no training.
Absolutely.
Their grandpa was a car guy. Their dad was a car guy. So they're a car guy that works at O'Reilly's,
Yep.
They're the same guys that asked you if your truck is 2 or 4-wheel drive and they're putting wiper blades on it. They're looking up wiper blades. Like if their box doesn't tell them, they don't know.
Yeah.
So when you come
That's
to
a true. That's so funny because I've been asked that before. Like, does it matter on the wiper blades?
right, is your Cadillac a stick or an automatic? I've never seen a Cadillac that's a stick shift. Does your Cadillac have air conditioning?
Yes.
So you bring it to us. We charge an hour per problem. So you bring it in, your wiper blades don't work, or your wipers don't work, your taillights are out. So it's 1 hour for your taillights, it's 1 hour for your wiper blades. If we could fix a wiper system, if we could fix it within that hour, say I pull it in and I look at it and I'm like, oh shit, the wire's broken. I repair the wire, they work, charge them half hour. As long as I could do it within that hour time, I'll fix it, good to go, right?
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you spend a whole hour checking it out, diagnosing. You get to the bottom of it, and you're like, okay, I'm not quite there. If it's 10 or 15 minutes, we just go ahead and finish up, say, okay, it needs this, this, and this. But if we need more time, we call the customer. And they always say the same thing to us, and this goes over and over again. Well, are you going to roll the diagnosis fee into the repair? Well, what do you mean by that? Well, are you going to give me that for free? No. And my answer is the mechanic spent an hour of his time. If your car had 8 problems, he would spend the whole day on problems, and you said, yeah, I don't want to do it. What is that guy going to go to work for free that day? Somebody's got to pay for all this.
Yeah.
I think a diagnostic estimate is definitely different than you coming out from Empire Carpet and measuring a room and say, here's your estimate.
Yep.
Big difference.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
people are like, well, you're ripping me off.
It's like going to the doctor. Like the whole time you're talking about, like it's like going to the doctor because you could be like you could have a cough or a sneeze or whatever. But what is causing that?
Right.
And they've got to go dive deeper. You're paying for that office visit. It's not a diagnostic test.
Right.
Like you're paying for that office visit, and then you have to pay for whatever prescription or whatever else they give you.
Right. And I'm going to tell you the same thing I said before, and you laugh, and you'll laugh again. Doctors bury their mistakes. Mechanics, they see them the next day, or they get that call. We had one that this truck has been driving us nuts, and the customer's really cool. It came in, it was losing coolant. We checked it. We couldn't find it was leaking coolant. We came in the next morning, there's a puddle underneath it. Oh, it's got a cold hose leak. Sure as shit, the hose gets cold, it shrinks, it leaks. We tighten up a clamp, no more leak. Give it back to him. Comes back a week later, it's still using coolant. Take it apart. The EGR cooler's leaking. We can't see on the other side where it's really leaking, so we take it apart. Sure as shit, it's full of coolant. Should not have coolant in the EGR cooler. Cool, EGR cooler, right? Do his exhaust and everything. Comes back a couple weeks later, we're like, oh my God. We're fixing the problems as they're presenting themselves, right?
Yeah.
It's got a blown head gasket we finally found. So it had 3 different problems that were really, so the guy says, well, how can you charge us diagnose? I said, but the first time, we just charged you the hour for tightening up the hose. We found it. Here's the pictures. Would you agree? Yep. Second time, here's your EGR cooler. Pour it out. Water's coming out. He's like, oh, my God. Yep. There's your second time. Now, it had 3 different problems.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a tough you can't fix all 3 problems at once. That was a tough one, and we got all done with it. I think the bill ended up being like $26,000 by the time we get done with this truck. Yeah.
Holy shit.
But you're thinking of a $100,000 dump truck to go buy it, right?
Yep.
So it goes. It's gone.
Great clarification. That's not just a normal truck. It's a dump truck.
Right.
Yeah.
Big dump truck, and they deliver rock and stuff for landscaping. So the day before the holiday, they call. Truck won't go over, check engine lights on, D-rate lights on, truck won't go over 5 miles an hour. We're like, what the fuck now? So I'm like, tow it in. We towed it in. It cost me $400 towed in. It had a blown fuse.
Oh, my God.
So we're like, we checked everything we did. We didn't find it. We gave the guy fuses. We said, look, and we haven't heard from him, but it's just like, the diagnostic stuff is tough nowadays. Like, it takes a while to figure out these problems. I had a problem with my tractor. I was up north cleaning up the lot at my house up there, and the tractor I would go down a hill and all the tractor would sputter and stall. I'm like, it's running out of fuel. I'm like, looking at the fuel gauge, looking at the tank, it's got fuel. I'm like, okay, is the fuel pump quitting or whatever? So I use it. It's intermittent. I bring it home, and I start messing with it yesterday, and I'm like, it does it when I go down a hill. I'm like, man, the fuel pump can't be going bad when I'm going down a hill. Like, so I take clear line and I put it before the fuel pump and I put it after the fuel pump to see where the air is coming from. If the fuel pump takes a shit, it just starts pumping air or no fuel or whatever, or from the tank to the fuel pump. Well, I'm driving along, all of a sudden from the tank to the fuel pump, the clear line fuel stops. I drive the tractor, all of a sudden fuel starts again. Okay, it took me 3 hours to figure this out. You know what it was? It was something about the size of a bottle cap was in the tank that came out of one of my fuel cans or something, a rubber plug. So when I would go, there's a hole in the bottom of the tank, right?
Yeah.
Where the fuel goes in.
Yep.
It would cover it.
It'd cover it.
Vacuum would stop it. It would settle down, or I would turn and it would slide off and start again. Think about it. Took me 3 hours to figure that out. It took me another 2 hours to take the tractor apart, get the fuel tank so I could see in there and get it. Okay. How could I not charge for something like that? And if I told you it's going to be 5 hours to do that, you'd be like, 5 hours? Well, it took me 5 hours to do it. Well, can you roll that into repair? Well, now they have the thing all tore apart. Yeah, it took me, I had to do a vacuum cleaner to get the piece out of it and everything. And I put the thing back together in half an hour and I know what's wrong. But should I give all that 5 hours away? Do you know what I mean?
No,
that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that I had to learn somewhere in my life to put clear line in to see where the problem was. Like,
absolutely.
And there's a lot of jokes in our business. It's like, you're charging me $900 to fix a broken wire. Oh, no, sir. We charge you $895 to find the broken wire. It was only $5 to fix it once we got there.
Yeah.
So, we run into a lot of that in our business right now. And, the other thing is everything's gotten so expensive. Okay? I mean, I'd imagine by the time a part gets to us, and I don't know, okay, so Ford Motor Company makes it, then they have to sell it to the dealer sells it to us. That part is stepped on a couple times, so the price of it's gone through the roof. And now the dealerships are not even usually, most of them are starting to not give us as jobbers discounted rates anymore. So now I put my markup on a part that you go to the Ford dealership and buy
for the same price.
But nobody wants to wait 6 weeks at the Ford dealership, so they pay our price. Well, we have to mark it up because
you're getting money on it,
right?
Yeah.
So we're running into that a lot. Where these jobs, like I can remember for a long time, like say a front brake job on an Econoline van, put pads on it, cut the rotors, $400. I mean, you're talking now these new transit vans. You have to put rotors on them, pads on them. You have to replace all the bolts or one-time use bolts. So you're talking, $2,000 for a front brake job. So $4,000 for four-wheel brakes on these vans.
Planned obsolescence.
Yeah.
Like you have a one-time use bolt.
Yeah. The torque to yield bolts, they call them. They stretch and, that's what they do. So we're kind of running into that, trying to deal with, parts. And, you want to buy a quality part so you can stand behind it and give a customer a warranty. So it's really super expensive. And this is where the truck repair business is different than the collision business because we're not dealing with the insurance company. you're Jason Tracy, you sell widgets. You
Yep.
take your truck, you load it with widgets every day, you go around and you sell them to people, right? If that truck is not running, that's
You're
a
out of
problem,
business.
right?
Absolutely.
So I call you up with a $4,000 estimate, and you're like, oh my God, well, it would cost me $20,000 not to have my truck this week. Get it done. So it's a matter of, hey, Jason, your truck needs this, this, and this. So now we have a shop management program where we send you pictures, we send you inspections, we send you everything written so you can look at the pictures of what we tell you is wrong. We circle them, mark them, so everything, you can accept it and sign it right there and approve your estimate right online. So you could actually see everything. And then you say, yeah, go ahead and do it. I have to have my truck. That's the difference, You care about your business.
Yeah.
I want, I always tell people, I'm going to be blunt. They're like, well, you're taking forever on my truck. Let me ask you a question, Mr. Customer. What is my end game here? Collecting the money for fixing your truck, right? You want your truck, I want your money. As bold as that is to say,
Yeah.
you want your truck.
We're on
right?
the same team here.
Well, yeah, I want your money. So trying to get it done, So there is companies now out there. Enterprise does it. It's called Wheels. I think Lease Plan. A couple other. They'll say, okay, hey, we'll take care of your fleet. The shops will call us. We could either lease you your vehicles. The shops will call us, and we'll approve the okays or the repairs. Well, a couple of them, they're like, yeah, we got 13% discount. So they charge you. They're like Visa or MasterCard. They charge you for taking care of your fleet. Then they charge your shop 13% off their bill. So what do you think we do to our bill? We raise it up 13%. We can't take a 13% bath.
Yeah.
So now, once again, we've slowed down the repairs. These fleet guys, the fleet manager, they have numbers they have to meet every month. Well, you're killing me. You have my truck. Well, wait a second. I submitted this to your fleet company yesterday at 2:00. I haven't heard back from them. They haven't approved it. They say waiting for customer. This is not on me. They've slowed everything down. I think our best customer is a guy with 3 or 4 trucks that I could have a personal relationship with them. They trust me. He gets his trucks fixed. He goes away. These big fleets, they get the fleet companies involved. It causes all kinds of problems.
Okay.
Then the other thing we're running into is parts availability. These parts, we'll have a job. We'll say it's not unreasonable to have probably 60 parts in a job. When I say unreasonable, because there's jobs that I'm not even joking, like a 6.7 or a 6.4 Power Stroke they made for 2 years to do exhaust manifolds on that truck. You're talking 103 parts by the time you put them all in, bolts and nuts and washers and gas. It's insanity, right? You get all these parts, but 3 or 4 will be on back order. So you order all these parts, they come there and all sitting there, and the job's sitting there apart.
I see. Now you have to store them until.
Yeah. And, so we're dealing with that stuff. It's getting better now. We really didn't have a problem during COVID. It seemed like it was like a lagging.
I was just going to ask you, was that more COVID? No?
No, I think it caught up with us like probably 4 months after everybody, because you got to remember, everybody shut down.
Yeah. Yep.
So to take that into account, everybody was shut down, so not a lot of people were buying parts.
Yeah.
All the dealers around us closed. It was great to drive to work. My God, it's just like you get in, it's just like quiet.
Yeah.
But we work on fire engines, we work on ambulances and stuff like that. So we still had stuff coming in, and I was.
You were considered essential?
Yeah.
You got the deemed as essential?
Yeah. I actually put a picture of me with a fireman in their fire truck that I just fixed on my Facebook page during that time,
Yeah.
So I did a lot of that type of stuff. So we actually grew during COVID. I got my guys together. I'm like, listen, I said, if we close these shops, I don't know
if you come back,
if we can come back, because we're fine financially. We weren't broke, but anybody that knows their business knows that it takes a lot to get it revved up. Meaning, when we have no jobs, say we have a really good month and we shut down, we finish all the jobs. Say we had 40 jobs, we have 2 in the parking lot. It takes a couple weeks to get everything revved back up, meaning all the jobs checked out, all the parts, get the work flowing again. And if you had a situation where you closed down and you didn't know when you could reopen and you had a little bit of parts problems or whatever, it would have been tough. Now, Motor City, we lost money for 6 months. We were losing money hand over fist. We did not have very much work out there. But we made it. Garrett Auto Truck was growing like leaps and bounds, because we were the only one open. I think at one time, I think I had 102 vehicles on the property and our offsite. I could not even take anywhere. People are like, I drive out a truck. I said, I have nowhere to put it. And and I told my guys, I go, listen, I said, we're not working any overtime. We're not killing ourselves. We're going to do what we can do on a daily basis because that's just the way it's going to be. I did not raise my prices. I did not do anything. I just left everything the same. We just coasted right through, and we did very well during COVID. Everybody was happy out. My guys didn't want to stay home. I got them all together, and I told them, and they're like, no, we're good. So everybody worked.
That's awesome.
And, there was people like Guernseys. They were delivering milk. We work on their trucks. So a lot of our normal customers that were out working, then after COVID, we ran into the situation where, you get these guys' trucks that were in really good shape before COVID, but they sat for a year in a parking lot. They go and hit the brake pedal, all of a sudden it blows the brake lines off. And I have one customer that does concerts. He goes and sets up all the equipment, acoustics for his trucks were all his brakes were seized. I mean, that poor guy, I thought he spent $30,000 putting his trucks on the road, getting them ready for the road again that were fine before they parked them for a year.
That's tough.
And he was a good guy. We kind of ran into that. There was a lot of different challenges during COVID that we made it through just fine. Now, the things we're facing today is all the guys my age are getting ready to retire. I'm 53, so some of these guys have been around longer than I have. They're retiring. Think about it. You get a parts guy, a good parts guy, you can call him and go, hey, I need this, this, and this. Let me look, or let me pull out the catalog. These young guys don't know what a catalog is. You give them a catalog, they start chewing on it. They don't know. So these guys are starting to retire. So you call the auto parts store, you really have a hard time getting the right parts a lot of the time now. So now you're looking up your own parts, on the computer and stuff like that. So it's more time to do an estimate. So a lot of the guys the tow companies are losing skilled tow truck drivers. So the tow truck drivers are tow companies are taking a lot longer to bring vehicles to you. We used to have a tow truck. I still have it, but I'm the only one qualified to drive it. Well, I'm not going to go drive a tow truck around. So, we have people tow them. And I started, now the towing's gotten so expensive, I have the customer call the tow company, set up the tow. Because the problem I ran into is you get your truck towed from, say, airport. It's $750 to get towed from the airport, right?
Yeah.
So I call you up, we'll go, hey, Jay, got your truck here. I got an hour diagnosis, which is, $185 and $700. So you owe me $1,000 right up
before even fixing it.
So they go through the road. What do you mean if they don't hear the tow part? Like, I'm not collecting, I'm just being like the middleman on the tow.
Yep.
So you're charging me $1,000 diagnosis? No, I'm charging you $185 with the tow company. So now I have them deal with that. So there's
They create that separation. Yeah, they realize
I just keep meandering around to stop the fights. It's crazy, and I had to start now. Any job over $5,000, I make them pay half down to start. And what that done is identify the people with no money.
Ooh.
Because I would finish these jobs.
Shit, yeah.
A $5,000 job, I put all the money out, parts, pay the guy, and I don't have the money. Can I make payments? No, you can't make payments.
I'm flabbergasted. People ask if you can make payments.
Oh yeah. And it got really bad for a while because the state made everybody become computerized. In Detroit was they were still doing stuff on paint. So a lot of them shops went out of business because they couldn't afford. So a lot of the people from the inner city were coming out there, and there's just a different culture. They just, they get used to paying Louis $50 a week for fixing their truck. Well, I'm not Louis. I'm not doing that.
Yep.
So we kind of ran into that. So I've identified that. Now people that don't have the money, they say, well, I don't have that money. Well, let me know when you're ready. When you have the money, we'll start. That's kind of, it's just one thing after another we've had to figure out. Because back in the day, I would call you up, you would do it. A lot of people are different. They say, I have it or I don't have it.
Yeah.
Nowadays, they'll just say, lie right to your face. It's just.
Go ahead and do it. And then I would feel so uncomfortable saying, go ahead and do it and giving you the approval and then coming back to you and saying, I don't have the money to fix it.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. I had a company, a towing company. I won't mention the name, but they're horrible people. They're just horrible people. They got kicked out of the shop a couple years ago, and they slid in under the radar when I wasn't there. And I seen the truck, and I'm like, oh, God, this is going to be a problem. So I'm like, what's up with that truck? Well, it needs a trans module, and it has a broken wire. Well, nobody has this trans module. We finally found one. We buy it, we put it in, we fix it where the truck is fixed. The first part of it, they paid us, I want to say it was like they gave us $2,000 cash down. Then the bill was $3,800 and some change. When they came and picked it up, they put it on a credit card. And the guys were out at lunch, and they had given us a hard time on the estimate and everything, just back and forth. And I argued with the lady. She's like, I demand to see what you paid for the parts and what you're marking them up. I said, yeah, that's not happening. I said, you go to McDonald's and go, I would demand to see your invoices for your hamburgers and how much. That's none of your business.
Yeah.
I said, I'm here for profit. I'm not nonprofit.
Yeah.
So yes, there's going to be a markup on it. We think it's ridiculous. I don't know what to tell you. That's why you have a 1976 truck that nobody can fix because you don't know how to do business. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. So they call us up after the truck's fixed. Man, the truck has never shifted this great. It's all good and everything. 2 weeks later, we get a thing dispute the credit card charge. I just laugh. I'm just like, are you kidding me? So I submit all of our paperwork, and we have, they have to approve each thing with a signature, and they have pictures. We send it to the credit card company, we win. But that's just how dirty people are. Like, it's like, you did a great job, but here, let me try to screw you over now. And the guys were
at lunch. Got to come back to you at some point. Like,
yeah.
That's so crazy.
And the thing is, Jason always laughs. He's always like, they always have to come back because we always fix it, and most shops won't. So I'll tell them when they come back, yeah, get lost. We're not doing it, But we go through that quite a bit. And the general public in that business, you have 90% of them are great, and the other 10% are a problem. I'm going to court the 18th. I had people drop off their dump trailer. We checked it out. It needed like $600 worth of work. Nice trailer. It was like a 2021. They had a $175 checkout fee on it. Back then it was $175 our labor rate was. And this was last year, so it's almost a year now.
Yeah.
They would not respond. I finally had my lawyer say, listen, when they sign the piece of paper, if it's $42 a day storage after 2 weeks, if you don't approve it or pick it up. I can't store everybody's vehicles. Especially a dump trailer, everybody wants to steal them every way. So I'm moving it in and out every night with a forklift.
Yeah.
I have to pay a guy to put it in and out. So they owe me like almost $5,000 because it's been a year almost. So lawyer goes to court and says they owe this. The judge says that's absolutely ridiculous, charging them storage fees. And my lawyer says, well, unfortunately, I don't know what to tell you. This is within the law. He's been storing this trailer and taking care of it for almost a year now. He said, I want your client here June 18th, I'm going to give him the riot act. And he said, well, Judge, it's nice that you have your own law book, that you follow your own law. He's like, I probably got myself in trouble. He said, but he's going to sit there and yell at you. I said, well, that's fine. What I'm going to do, and I was talking to Marilyn yesterday, my wife, she said, we were talking, and she's like, we're going to get our tax bill out, and we're going to figure out how many square feet that trailer took up for a year and how much we paid a guy moving in and out. And we're going to give it to the judge and say, hey, listen, we won't charge him the fee, but what we need you to do, because you're a judge, I need a court order for you to have the city of Farmington Hills give me a discount on my taxes, because you don't think that they have to pay for my spot. So I agree with you. So call Farmington Hills and see what they say. If they forgive it for me, we'll forgive it for them, and everybody will be happy. Is that okay, Judge? I'm going to lose anyway, probably. So I did what I was supposed to do, signed the checked it all up. These people won't pay me, so I'm the bad guy here.
It's insane in the sense of like they've had it there for a year. Again, taking up space. Like I've never heard of anyone that doesn't charge you for that.
Yeah, exactly. We had another guy that my wife, this moving company, brings his truck in. I check it out. I've had problems with the guy before. I check the truck out myself. I write it up. I call him. I go, hey, this truck needs like $9,000 worth of work. I suggest you just maybe retire the truck. It doesn't need it needs this. It don't need this. You're lost your mind. I'm like, that's fine. I said, I wrote you for 2 hours diagnosis, but I looked at it myself. I said, I'm only going to charge you an hour. Just pay me the hour diagnosis to pick up your truck. I go up there the next day. The truck's gone. I'm going to Fuller. I'm like, did that guy pick up his truck? No. Look at it. I still got the keys. So I called him. He's like, yeah, I picked it up. I'm like, you're an asshole is what you are. So I called and I filed on him. Maryland filed on him for small claims for the $175.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm going to countersue you. I got my lawyer. We're like, you can do whatever you want. We went to court, and this guy just kept talking, and the judge is like, So you actually went and stole your truck in the middle of the night? The guy's like, yeah, it's my truck. The judge is like, yeah, you're going to pay these people, but I'm not giving you storage. You can't charge storage. We're like, what is up with these? It was the same judge. He obviously had a bad experience with storage.
I was going to say he has something in his life.
Right.
Some PTSD around storage.
Right. But, you know, taxes in Farmington Hills are not a joke. I think they're $16,000 a year.
Yeah.
And not to mention, I have to pull that trailer every night in and out of my building because it'll get stolen in the middle of the night if I leave it out. So I've been babysitting that trailer for a year, and this judge will look at me and goes, tough shit. I mean, how much do they expect a small business owner to eat? You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Well, because if you leave it out and it gets stolen now, the judge is telling you to pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't have been storing it. Yeah. No shit. If they would have picked it up, I wouldn't be.
No shit.
So
you think I wanted to store it? That's why we're charging him the price.
Right. And I actually had to have the lawyer write up a contract when you sign at the shop that kind of lays this stuff out. They don't give a shit.
Yeah.
The courts don't care.
Oh, really? I was going to say, even though it's in writing on the...
Yeah, they don't care. Isn't that insane?
That's so
We just had a job we estimated at Motor City. I think it came out to like 20, almost 30 grand, I think. And the customer got mailed a two-party check, Motor City Truck Collision in his name. The insurance company calls us up and says to Jim, how is that job all done, all set? Jim's like, what? No, we never did it. Well, you guys cashed the check? Jim's like, we didn't cash the check. We never did the job. The guy forged our Motor City Truck Collision, forged his name and cashed the check, kept the money, never fixed the truck. Oh my God. In today's world, who do you call?
Who do you call?
Who would give a shit?
Yeah.
You call the police department. When I was starting in 1995, somebody wrote us a bad check at Garrett Auto Truck. I would call the Farmington Hills police. They would
knock on the door.
Hey, you wrote this a bad check. You make it right or you're going to jail.
Yeah.
I remember them days. They don't care now. That's just a nuisance. So that guy basically defrauded the insurance company, and nobody's going to do nothing about it.
That is insanity.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, so, you know, that stuff goes on and on, you know. So, you know, the truck repair business is not an easy business. The auto repair business is not an easy business. I talked to my friend Hal, who sold Hal's Auto Clinic. I said, do you miss having your business? He said, hell no. He's like, you know what I did? He said, I had a dream. He's like, I had a nightmare the other night. It's like, what? He's like, one of my employees lit a car on fire, and the other employee was running over with a gas can to throw gas on it. He goes, man, I don't miss it. And, you know, it's true because anybody, this does not pertain to my business arena. Think about this. When you're doing really good in your business, being a small business, you're kicking ass. You're saying to yourself, I got this shit. I know what I'm doing. I'm great. I'm this. All of a sudden you hit a lull and your bank account's looking skinny and you're like, man, I'm the worst son of a bitch around at this job. Like, I'm terrible. What is going on? Am I overpriced? Are my prices too high? What am I doing wrong? And it's just, I think it's just some of the outside forces that we have to deal with nowadays can get pretty sticky. I don't know if you run into spots in your business where it's just like, you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
You know?
And there's other things where it's like everything I'm touching is magic. It's all working. It's like I'm on top of the world. And then all of a sudden you get that kick in the seat of the pants and it just brings you back down to reality or humbles you.
Yeah. And I've been doing the same thing since 1995 in that business. And I've been in the mechanical business, since 1989 when I got out of high school. And before that, I was on the farm doing mechanical stuff. So I've done this my whole entire life. As far as the business part, I mean, that shop is in better shape. And I'd be technically the third generation because we had Steve's dad's generation, then Steve, and then me. So I'm the third generation. They say that's when most small businesses fail because people didn't build it. They don't know. They just kind of inherited. I'm very careful about that.
Well, where it comes down to in the story of like, you're technically the third generation, but you came along and the business probably wouldn't be there today if you wouldn't have came on as an employee and changed what was going on.
Yeah, you know, Steve and his dad didn't take risks. I don't want to say I'm like Elon Musk or anything like that, but I've taken risks. Like, for instance, when COVID hit, we had 2 hoists on order, and they were $10,000, I think, a piece. So it was $20,000, and they called me up. They said, "Are you canceling the hoist?" And I didn't even think about. I'm like, "Why would you ask that?" They said, "Well, we don't have you." I don't remember what month. We don't have you till end of July to install. He's like, well, we could do them next week because all the dealers and everybody canceled. I'm like, I'm not canceling. I was like, what? Why would you buy 2 hoists if, I said, well, I always thought this, and this came from the Mike Lee days, prepare to deliver. What happens if we get so busy we don't know what to do because of COVID, and we're open, we have these hoists that are going to make our life easier. If we don't, and we go out of business, everybody else is going to be out of business too. So they can come in on both their hoists and take them back. I don't, that's kind of the way I looked at it. So it kind of worked out for me in that position.
Because I was saying, in retrospect, you were so busy, right? Did that come back and help?
Oh, yeah. Them freaking hoists worked great, and Motor City was slow. So I have a sandblaster. It's a dustless blaster makes it. Has a big pot on it. And I had seen a video where these guys were spraying COVID, this COVID chemical, this disinfectant all over. So I called. They said they're coming out with a kit. I called so much one night. Finally, the president of the company answered and said, I don't know why you keep calling, but you've left every voicemail everywhere. I said, I want that kit. He said, well, it's not ready. I said, well, you had one you were testing on your video. I said, so sell me that one. He's like, well, I said, well, are you going to do it? He said, well, they'll be ready in a month. I said, a month's not good for me. I said, I need one, can we overnight it or what here? He's like, well, I guess. I said, I'll test it for you. I said, I'll give you all the information. So he's like, all right. So they ended up selling it to me. It took a couple of days still to get it. And I ended up converting my sandblaster into a COVID sprayer. And I had a company I had done work with that Marilyn worked at. And I said, I will spray your shops on the weekends. So I went by myself, converted that thing, and I would go and spray 60,000 square feet of disinfectant every Saturday on their shop so they'd keep working. And then I would put the money in the bank at Motor City we'd have money.
Yeah.
So I just did that I think I did that for 3 months.
It's solving problems.
It would take me, my son-in-law would help me because he works there, he's a painter. It would take me from 7 o'clock to 6:30, 7 o'clock at night spraying by myself. But I'm I never asked anybody that worked for me. I went and did it myself, and I put the money in the bank to keep the doors open.
What gave you that idea?
What's that?
How did the idea to come up with the spray and
I seen the guys on the dustless blasting thing.
Okay.
I would go into their thing and do it, and everybody's like, that's a ripoff. I'm thinking to myself, if I could get, and then I did a thing. I did a Facebook post and stuff that said, first responders, I'll spray your cars out after you get done with work. So they would stop by the shop, and I'd have it fired up, and I'd spray their cars down, interior of their car down, so they go home to their family. But the problem is when you do stuff for free, people start flaming you.
Yeah,
what are you trying to sell them? I ain't trying to sell them shit. What does free mean? They roll in, and I did a few cars, and I would have people say, hey, put on there that I really did it for free. I didn't try to sell you anything. And I did that. That worked out. So I did that for a few months. So I just kind of done whatever I had to do to keep it going.
Did you have the first responder business before you started that?
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say, did that lock that in?
Yeah, no, we're one of the only people that have really worked on fire engines. We have heavy lifts. I have a 30,000-pound hoist and a 50,000-pound hoist. So I could lift up a fire engine, you know what I mean, and do that stuff. So, I've done a lot of different stuff over the years to try to keep the doors open. My wife says I'm a wheeler and dealer. It's just you kind of see, I guess one of my gifts, you can see opportunities in certain things. I'm like, okay, I could do that. And I'm not afraid to do it. And don't act like I'm not acting like I just got that manifold set and put it together and all of a sudden it just sprayed the chemical. I went through it was foaming up, and then I realized the hoses were too long. I could only do a 25-foot or a 50-foot hose instead of 100, they said. It would just deteriorate to the point where it came out spitting, and there were several different things. I spent probably 3 or 4 days getting it to actually work. And once you got it working, you couldn't shut it off. You know what I mean? There was a lot of different things. It was, and their employees liked it too, because everybody was freaked out about COVID.
Yep.
And it would go through that shop. They would get it. So the disinfectant stuff worked really good, and it smelled like fabric softener type almost. Okay. So it smelled nice.
Yeah.
So you could actually, when you walk in, you're like, wow.
You walk into the shop and you're like, this never smelled like this.
Right. So they really like that. And I had a drone, and then we'd videotape it, safety initiative and all that stuff. And people really like that. So I did that, like I said. And, we bought the hoists. And scan tools and all that stuff. And I just kind of like just ignored what was going on. And I'm not going to say that it wasn't a stressful time leading up to that, because you're sitting there, okay, everybody wants to kind of like slow down spending, and here I am, put the hoist there.
Spending more money.
But yeah. And, we did it, but we ended up getting really super busy, and everybody stayed healthy, and we worked through it. And I remember before we even knew what was going on, I remember like, I don't remember what customer dropped off a truck. And I remember grabbing the keys and putting them in the truck and starting it and parking it outside. And then Jason went and got it and pulled it and started working on it. And they called and said, hey, that driver just tested positive. So we're like, oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
We're going to die. Because that's when the model is everybody's going to die. So I'm not going to lie to you. It gave me a little bit of an adrenaline bump. Like, son of a bitch, we're infected.
Yep. Yeah.
So
that was back then, though. We didn't know anything about it.
Right.
The way it came off in the news was, we're going to die. It's going to be like the worst plague that's ever hit us,
The Spanish flu, right?
Yeah.
And I remember my wife came out. It was a Wednesday, and she came out. I said, hey, they said, I think guys, Rodney just tested positive. She goes, well, you guys are already going to die now, so go back to work.
You're going to die anyways.
And me and Jason laughed, and I go, she's right. Fuck it, let's go. And then, you want to know the funny thing is, that whole time that everybody was getting sick, neither of our companies
That's amazing.
got sick. Jim Gray was the first one to get sick after he got sick, I think, in July. He almost died. He said he would be laying on the floor. He said he didn't have enough strength to get up. Like, I remember when he came back, he like hugged me. He's like, I thought I was going to die. He had it so bad. I got it one morning. I'm like, man, I just feel like shit. I said, well, I'm going to work. My wife's like, why don't you just take a test? I'm like, okay. I'm like, it's negative. So I'm like, you know what? I'm coughing and stuff. I don't know. This is weird. So I went to the parts store, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to go in. And then she calls me. She's like, oh, you're positive. So I went home. I stayed home, worked for 2 days on my computer, did all my estimates like usual.
Yep.
No problem.
Yeah.
Not long ago, Jason got it, and before we realized he had it, we all had it, and it was like we just all worked, and it was kind of like the military. Like, yeah, you have it, just keep working, you're fine.
Yeah. There's some people that hit my mom really, really hard. She thought she was going to die. It was like that. I think October that Jim got it in. She like 3 weeks it impacted her. I got it a couple times, and it was like a very light cold.
Yeah.
The only reason I knew I had it is because I couldn't taste or smell.
Yeah, and I never lost the taste or smell either. I know people that have gotten the shot. Not that I'm even one way or the other. I give a shit what people do, but they've got it like 8 or 9 times.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, I just think more people are prone to it than not. I don't know naturally because you got every booster, and all of a sudden you get it. And I know they say it's not going to stop, whatever, but it's like...
You shouldn't get it every time it comes up. It comes out.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
I'm here for your monthly COVID, So, yeah. So we went through all that, and we've had now our biggest hurdle right now is finding people and keeping people. People don't want to show up for work when you do hire them. I hired a kid that I thought was pretty promising. He had his certifications and stuff, and I asked him if he could do an alignment. Oh yeah, I could do alignment. And so he came to me. He's like, "Will you look at these numbers on this truck?" I'm like, looking at him, like, okay, this thing doesn't pull by the numbers. And I said, did you check the air in the tires and drive it? Well, no. I said, so you took the customer's word that the truck pulls to the right. You never checked the air in the tires. I said, you never drove it. Does it even know it pulls to the right? He's like, no. I said, it looks like to me the numbers are right. Your steering angle's off. Your steering wheel's going to be crooked. We just straighten the steering wheel out in this truck. It doesn't pull. Probably it's going down the road. The steering wheel's like this. So it's not really pulling, so they're trying to straighten it out, and it makes it go this way, so they think it's pulling to the right. So put air in the tires, I'll go drive with you. Sure as shit, we drive it. And he's like, I said, listen. I said, I understand. I said, you told me you could do something, you can. I said, if you think I'm going to say, oh, it's okay, you're wrong. I said, you had your head up your ass. I said, we'll fix it, straighten the steering wheel out, and get on with their life. He started crying.
Oh, man.
Then quit. The next Monday, he comes in, hey, man, I just can't handle the stress.
Oh, man.
I'm like, what stress? You have a baby at home and a wife, and you're quitting because you didn't do alignment right after you said you could do alignment right, and I didn't say that's okay, boo-hoo.
Yeah.
I go, what kind of life are you going to have if you're flaming out over this? I mean, I'm telling you what, when I was growing up, I'm not too sure if I would have got hit with a 2x4 for doing that. You know what I mean? And you tell these guys, I'm not going to boo-hoo you, or you can't go to the reflection room, and the guy quits.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the problem I'm having in today's world is like you can't tell people when they mess up at work. I have no experience in corporate America, nor do I even want it or act like it. But
Absolutely.
I hear it all the time from my friends that are CEOs, and she's like, these guys, oh my, they're crybabies. I'm like, and you let them get away with that? How was it when you were there?
In corporate America?
Yeah.
Well, so I've always been in small business, but hiring people, yeah, you're going to go through the people that have that mentality. It's combing through a lot of people, but it's finding the dogs, finding the people that have that thing. Because there are people out there. There are people like the Jim Grays. Maybe you're looking for like a younger, but there are people out there that want to work and that are being taken advantage of right now where they're at. It's like, how do you find those people and show them really there's a lot more in small business. There's a lot more opportunity, even just the way you're taking care of people, right? Or you have Jason or Jim that have been able to grow into leadership, into ownership, just like what you did.
Yep.
That's something they're not getting in the corporate space. So I think even, how do you find those people then?
Yeah, it's kind of impossible. It was Jason. And then my other neighbor, Jake, I hired him. He's grown into a pretty good guy. He's a trainee at Garrett Auto Truck, but he's got state certifications and he's a mechanic. And then my other neighbor, Nick, was like finding a chunk of gold. I hired this kid. He just has a calm personality. He comes to where you could tell he was raised right. His dad was a body man, worked at the same place for 30 years. Like he just retired. This kid he's just a solid individual, and it's like, man, do you have a brother?
Yeah, do you have more of you?
Yeah, because this kid is just like you're the future. We always call him the future because he's going to grow into this role.
Yeah,
and he's just a solid guy. Well, you don't find these guys. Like you find a solid guy, and you're thinking he's great, and all of a sudden you find he was a heroin addict or something. It's insane. And he was raised right, and you could totally tell. And he's a good guy. And I pay them guys hourly because they're training. They're young. They're trying to establish themselves. Like he's getting married and stuff like that. He just bought a house next door to me and all that. That's how I met him. And they're trying to establish themselves. And to put them on flat rate, you're kind of setting them up for failure. Like I told him, I said, I'm going to pay you hourly because I'm going to invest in you. You're going to mess shit up, and I'm going to he just messed the truck up. I said, well, the parts are like $800 or $900 to fix this truck. And I said, probably 2 days of your time. He said, just fix it. What are we going to do? And I called the customer. I go, hey, it's a long-time customer. Hey, Dan, you know what? Broke the housing somehow. Don't have a clue how. It's broken. We're taking care of it. I know you would. And I've screwed that guy shit up. Like one time we got done with it. Jason got done with it when he was younger. Dan calls me. Hey, I'm in fucking Lansing and extension went through my radiator and blew my fan up. Like he left an extension when he worked on the engine.
Yeah.
I go, Jason, you missing an extension? No. You're not missing any? No, I'm not missing any extensions. I go, okay. So Dan tows it in. Driver walks in. Jason's extension says JS on it. We laugh now. I go, hey.
Got caught.
Yeah, hey, asshole. But,
Is this another JS?
Yeah. So, we've all screwed up shit and messed stuff up. But, if you, think about it. Like Hal would do that to me because with them cars. But if I did that to them guys and said, hey, I'm going to take your paycheck this week and next week's, that might be a problem. It's just a different world.
Yep.
I'm not saying that he would flame out and quit, but I kind of look at it as like, I'm going to take half of the liability because you're a trainee. I'm training you. You're getting your certification. So shit's going to happen.
Yep.
And I'm not going to sit there and crucify you. We're going to fix it and get on with our life. And this is going to be a non-issue in a month or two. But next time one of them come in, you're going to pay attention, not to overtime, whatever.
Yep.
Kind of the same thing that happened to me. I didn't get charged for stuff because, you could really screw some young kid up pretty bad, his home budget and stuff like that, not make his car payment. Then you have bigger problems where his credit's ruined,
Yep.
And people are like, a lot of these people are like, you shouldn't really give a shit about what happens to your employees. I know there's books out there. You hear that all the time. They're a number. They're a number. When their number's up, you just get rid of them and put somebody else. Well, I don't think people are necessarily toilet paper, number one. And number two, I never want to look at the end of my whole career and look at it and say, yeah, I'm very wealthy. I'm going to sell my business and I'm going to step over a pile of broken bodies that I just sucked every bit of life.
Yep.
I'd rather make less money and make sure everybody around me is happy. You know, like I told you before, my guys have new Harleys, they have nice trucks. Like they get paid very well, but they do a good job. And I don't have to worry about a lot of the things that other companies worry about, you know. My guys, when they're at work, they work. I walk in the door. Never do I walk in the door. People are standing around and not doing their job, you know. And I think we have an understanding back and forth that I respect them, they respect me. And I'll go out and cut the lawn if we're busy or they're too busy, or I'll clean the toilet. I don't give a shit about stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that won't do it, you know. I think being a small business owner, you have to wear many hats, and I don't have a problem doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's like leading from a place that you wouldn't ask anybody on your team to do something that you wouldn't do or that you're above doing. And that creates so much credibility from your team that nobody else would worry about going and mowing the lawn or cleaning the toilets or doing whatever you asked them to do because you do it too.
right. You know, and I'm a firm believer that, you know, if you screw up a customer's car, which is going to happen, you're going to do shit to it. And some stuff you can't help, other stuff, whatever. If you stand behind it, you look at them and say, hey, I screwed this up. How much can they yell at you if you look at it and say, I fixed your truck,
Yeah.
but this happened. It's going to cost me, but I'm going to take care of it. They can get mad, but at the end of the day, you're taking care of it. In today's world, you don't find that. Think
Yeah.
about it. Well, I have to call corp or I have to talk to my district manager to see if we'll do it. What do you mean? You screwed it up. You know, we take care of stuff like that. And that job probably, I think the parts rate, I mean, it probably cost me $1,200 by the time you're all done. That's a lot of money to give away, but you know what? I've had that customer for 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he knows I'm going to take care of it. And what am I going to do? Crucify the young guy because he did something and broke? I've broken shit.
Yep.
I've bumped stuff and broke it. I mean, when we were coming up, if you pounded a wheel seal in and you ruined it, we had to buy it. I remember I ruined 3 one time at Garrett Auto Truck. I mean, $150 out of your paycheck back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So you learn real quick how not to screw shit up. And I think in a lot of times now, I think people don't ever have to pay the price, so the prices we paid. I don't know if you have any stories when you were a kid when you screw something up, your mom and dad are like, I don't know what to tell you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I literally turned 16. My mom let me drive her car. Me and my brother were driving, and it was winter, so we were doing donuts in the, driving down the road, doing donuts in the neighborhood, and I careened off and just blasted a curb and bent my A-frame. And my mom made me pay for it. I had to figure it out. Not only did I have to pay for it, but my uncles were like, fixed cars in their garage on the weekends type deal, and so I had to go to the junkyard, like take the piece off a car, like go back, fix it. I had to fix it myself. Me and my uncles, we fixed it together. I had to pay for it, and like I never did that again. I learned a huge lesson from it.
Yeah, it's funny. Lincoln, he learned a lesson. I told him his trailer has 2 levers. You lock, and then you flip the things to put the locks. He would shut the door and not flip it down. So one day, I hear his phone ring. He pulls in, and I'm like, man, that sounds weird. Oh, well, I'm in the garage, and I walk out. I hear his phone ring. I hear him, okay, thanks. And I go out there. He's on a bucket, and he's crying. And I'm like, what's up? He's like, I'm like, what? He's like, he went down the dirt road and didn't latch the trailer. Popped up, he drug his trailer door down the road. I mean, the freaking trailer, the door was a quarter gone. It was a ground off. So I'm like, he figures I'm going to go ape shit. I look at it and go, oh, that sucks. He's like, are you mad? I said, no. I said, isn't it funny you didn't have time to shut it, but you have time to pay to fix it now? Well, what am I going to do? I said, well, I know how to fix it. I said, we'll go up to Home Depot. I'll buy some diamond thread and put it on there for you. It cost him $190. He had to count it out. And he was just like, I'm like, you going to tip me? Dad, this isn't. But you know what? I'm like, now he latches them. I said, isn't it funny you didn't have time the first time to do it right, but sure do have time now to latch it every time?
Yep. We learn the most from our mistakes, especially when we're held accountable for them. And I think, You talked about the third generation earlier, and a lot of times, like third generation owners are like the grandkids of the of the person that
Yeah.
started it, and they've never been usually the grandparent starts the business, pours their blood, sweat, and tears into it. The second generation comes along, they make the business bigger, and they give everything to their kids because they had to work for it. That second generation had to plug in and work in the business and do the things, and so they feel like they're doing their kids a favor by giving them things, and then they don't learn any lessons, and things are just easily replaced. And when they make a mistake, somebody else fixes it for them. They don't have to be a problem solver.
Right.
When there's problems occurring, when the company is going through bankruptcy, how would they ever fix it? There's nobody there that comes and bails them out, and there's no accountability to it.
No, you're right. And Jason was there. He's been there 17 years, 18 years. So he was there at the very beginning. Like when I bought the place from Steve, a lot of the equipment wasn't updated. So I spent the first 2.5 years buying and updating equipment. So Jason kind of appreciates all the jacks and seeing where the business is today from where it was. You know what I mean? Like I always thought to myself that whole thing that Mike Lee said, prepare to deliver. When you're slow, prepare to deliver. Make sure your equipment's good. Make sure so when you're busy, you don't have to stop to fix your equipment. He used to always say, pump the front, fix the back. Meaning, if you have problems in the back with your mechanics, fix the back, pump the front. And I always tell my service advisors, I say, your job is to overwhelm the back. Their job is to get this stuff done. You should not worry about selling too much shit for them. They'll figure out how to get it done.
Yep.
And, so I always say that. They get sick here, pump the front, fix the back, pump the front. Like, all of our equipment's good now. And it just took me, it's this experience. It's literally experience. It's like my wife is retiring for the third time from the company she works at. And my wife...
I was like, didn't she already retire? I thought we talked about this before, but they brought her back. And
a couple times, right? My wife has done the same, been in the same place, and she has got 2 college degrees. In the meantime, she works tirelessly. And what I find funny with these people is they always think a college degree is more important than experience. And I disagree with that 100%.
Yep.
She said the other day, they're like, she has all this knowledge, and they said, well, what are you going to do? She said, what are you going to do? And they go, oh, I think the new girl will just be just fine. She's got college degrees. And I'm not saying the new girl's ignorant or anything, but she does not have the experience. She's just not gone through all the different things that my wife has gone through and seen what works and what doesn't work. Yeah. No different with me.
Yep.
Okay, I've been there when they were putting hoists in. I've been there. I know what was going on. And so does Jason now in that business because he's been there. My wife knows where all the skeletons are in the closets. You know what I mean? So to try to replace, she's one of the old, I think she's almost one of the longest ones there. I think there might be a couple more. But all the older people that have built that company are retiring. And you get all these younger people with these college degrees that really think they know something. Yes, they do. They did very well at college, okay? They partied. They did. College teaches you to show up for a job. It does not give you experience, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And, like I said before, I'm not against education if you're going to get like a law degree or something that you could pull out. If you're going to dig a big hole, you have a big shovel, okay? But tell me how many people, college is a scam. Tell me how many college-educated people that you could look at and go, did you have to go to any classes you had nothing to pertain to what you do?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because it was about the money for them.
Yep. Most of the people have a degree that they don't work in.
Yeah. Somebody I was just talking to the other day, he said, I have a degree in psychology. I don't even use it.
Yeah.
He's like, I do computer programming and other stuff. He's like, I can't even do anything with my degree.
Yeah.
And, you get all these younger people that think they know, and they never went through all the different problems and had to work their way through all this stuff to get the experience to know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And that's like me. I've been at my shop for so long at Garrett Auto and Truck. I could pretty much tell you by the tone of a customer what they're saying, what they're doing, how this whole thing's going to go. It's experience. It's not like I have a magic ball that I could look, crystal ball I could look at. I've just done it for so long. You interview people, you're like, this is going to be a train wreck. I don't even want to get involved in this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we cut those off before they come on.
Right. That's kind of like, my wife's going to retire. She's like, I said, they're not going to be able to replace you for a long time. They're going to muddle their way through it, and they'll be fine, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And
new girl from college is going to make a lot of mistakes before And she's going to have to learn. It's the
Right.
price that she has to pay in order to get to even equivalent to where your wife is at.
Right.
A fraction of it.
And don't look at people and say, oh, you don't have a college degree, or, you don't have the latest and greatest degree. So therefore, like, my wife's got 2 degrees. She's got an accounting degree and a business degree. Okay. And she's been doing the same job for 30 years and she wants to leave. Like, now think about me. The way the guy that used to own that company would do it, if you had somebody who was going to retire, he'd say, hey, when are you retiring? Well, I'm 3 years. All right, you're going to work with Kevin day in and day out. He's going to follow you around. You're going to train him for 3 years. So when you leave, we're not going to feel that hole. You're going to teach him. And that's kind of what I'm doing with Jason. He's been with me for so long. I helped him, learn how to be a mechanic in the earlier years. And now we're going to start working on the business part. So he's going to know all about it by the time he leaves. I didn't get that luxury. Steve's wife came, how, I guess I should jump back to the story. So basically, when Steve bought the place from his dad, we had a good run. When Steve was going to retire, when his oldest kid got out of college, when his old kid was in college his last year, Vicky developed a brain tumor, cancer. So I was in Puerto Rico on Christmas Eve. I get a phone call, she's got a brain tumor. She's in the hospital. So I got on a plane, came home, left Marilyn and the kids there, went to the hospital with Steve. At that point, I had never been involved in the accounting. I never went into QuickBooks, didn't even know the password. She just handled it. She was very stingy when it came to me. Me and her did not get along. So she was in the hospital. So we had to pay the employees. So I'm like, okay, how the hell do I do this? So I went in there and realized, me and my daughter Jordan, who's a nurse now, went in there and I said, we have to balance the bank account to see how much money we have. Well, come to find out, there's a $40,000 deposit put in twice. And then she wrote a bunch of checks on it. So technically the bank account was overdrawn like $5,000. But it had not caught up yet because of Christmas and all that stuff. And, the months we didn't do it happened, the problem happened in November and December. We were figuring this all out. And the line of credit was at $90,000. We had a credit $100,000. So we had $10,000 left. So here I am, and I'll never forget that feeling. Here I am going, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing whatsoever at this. I know how to use a calculator, so we just have to figure out what came in and went out and what's left. We were like almost $10,000. My daughter Jordan will probably know the numbers. She remembers them. And we spent the next year rebuilding the whole accounting system so we understood it. Never had the experience to do it. I remember it was so bad, us digging ourselves out of the hole, that I would say, okay, we have 2 more bills to pay for the month and we could finish 2 more jobs to finish this up. Because I had to come back because I was at Motor City during all that stuff, at Carried at Cranes during all that stuff. So when she got, I had to go back down there and do all that. So we figured all that out. And me and my daughter Jordan set that all up. And that was, I will have to say, that was probably one of the scariest times in my life because I'm looking at all the numbers in the bank going, okay, I'm like in it. Like all this, like, holy shit. So we ended up getting the accounting system straightened out and getting all that done. And that's, after we got all done with that, it started, after probably 8 months of just every day being in that office trying to figure stuff out and learning how to do sales tax, learning how to do, had to figure all this out. Like I had no help. It was insane. Because there's a lot of stuff that goes into a small business that people don't take into consideration.
That's absolutely it. Yeah.
I didn't understand about, as you're taking money out of people's checks for their health insurance, it's going into an account. So it's going, it's getting a credit. And then at the end, you put the bill, the off. Like, I was like, had to figure all this out, like Mr. Google and being Jordan are like, Marilyn was doing her job full time. I could ask her, but she really didn't understand. So we redid all that stuff. And back then they would take all the invoices that they would do, and then they would take them, they would send them down, and they would type them into QuickBooks one at a time. So we were doing 60, 70 invoices a week, and she would type them in one at a time. No wonder she was working 4 days.
Oh, my God, no kidding.
So we got hooked up with an interface. So my shop management program hooked to this thing called Accounting Link. It would push it into QuickBooks for you. Hit a button, put it in. We learned all that stuff. So now my wife can, work like 5 hours and have all the accounting done for a week. But my whole thing to that rant is I wouldn't know about all that stuff unless I had to sit there and beat my head against the wall
Absolutely.
to figure it all out. And I'm not going to lie to you and say I didn't want to cry sometimes. Like, I would sit there and say, I'm alone. I don't know what I'm going to do here. Like, this is scary shit. Steve never did it either, so he didn't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I was by myself. And that was one of the times you're just kind of like, wow. But you learned it. Now I know it. So now people can't tell you anything different. I've done it.
Well, I love that not only you learned it, but then you found ways to create better processes. You took what she was doing and you created an automated process where you're not typing in every individual invoice.
Yeah, I was reading a book the other day, and they're saying the big guys, these big CEOs and stuff, they don't have email on their phone. They say it's a waste of time. I don't need to look at my phone dinging every 5 minutes. And I've been thinking about that a lot. I've been looking at I have a Garmin watch or this Apple Watch, and you look at how many notifications you get during the day. I left mine the other day. I had 143 notifications at the end of the day.
Jesus Christ.
Think about that, stopping everything you're doing.
Yep.
I'm really starting to think about not wearing an Apple Watch and freaking turning off my email and just check it once a day.
Well, because then the other thing is it leads down a whole rabbit hole. You answer that one email and then you see something else and then you look at something else on your phone and then you forgot why you even picked up your phone or whatever. You're in a few things.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that interesting? If you really stop and think about it, it's kind of a time suck. It really is.
It really is.
And I'm not going to lie to you, it pisses me off when people, and I said this before, oh man, I didn't have time to return your call. Well, I seen you on Facebook, I see you on Instagram.
Yep.
You sent me 15 jokes.
You have the time.
You have the time, just none for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I think over and over again, if you just, like that whole accounting thing, I just beat myself to death and I got through it and, I'll go from there. And if any small business owner doesn't feel that, some days they're doing great and other days they're just like, this is such bullshit, it's not worth it, they're lying to themselves. I don't know anybody that could sit there and get on the feedback loop. That's what I call Facebook, the feedback loop. My life is so wonderful.
Yeah.
You ever? There's a book out that I just got done reading. The art of not giving a fuck.
Oh yeah.
You ever heard that book?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
That book is awesome. If you read that book,
I gotta check it out. Yeah.
It's awesome because he talks about that. Like, it talks about your grandpa having a bad day back in 1950. Oh, shucks. My life is pigeon poop today. Well, nobody cares. I just need to get back to work, and I'm going to go home, talk to my wife, eat supper, watch Archie Bunker, and go to bed, right?
Yep.
Nowadays, people are on Facebook. It's horrible. And if you're having a rough day, you get on Facebook, it looks worse. It makes you feel worse because everybody else is doing great.
Yeah.
Nobody puts on there, hey, I screwed this up today in my business, and,
Yep.
I don't even put shit on Facebook hardly anymore. Some funny jokes once in a while because, number one, they lock you down if you say anything. Like, I'm shadow banned. None of my friends see my stuff. You can't put anything on there anymore. But, a lot of people, it's like the guy sitting next to the Porsche, and he's wearing a nice shirt all close up, but you zoom back and the thing's on 4 blocks and he's in the ghetto. You know what I mean? Like, perception is reality, and these people are always lying on Facebook how wonderful their life is. Can you imagine if everybody really told you how their life really was on Facebook?
It'd be like that movie where Jim Carrey all of a sudden was like God.
Yeah.
And you could hear all the complaints coming in and
yeah. Because I don't know anybody that has a great day every day.
Yeah.
You don't?
You don't. No. You post the things that make you happy or that, some people do it to lead here's the mirage of how beautiful my life is and I don't have any wrong. And then there's some people that they're just posting the good stuff. They're not going to go out and post the complaints. And then I had a client that was like, I hate this stuff because it's all posting good stuff. And I'm like, but could you picture if it was all the bad stuff? Like, that'd be a train wreck. Either that or you're sitting there with the popcorn, looking at all the people's disasters. I don't know.
My wife's sleeping with a neighbor, my dog's pregnant, my dog ran away. How's your day going?
How's your day going?
Right. It's like, yeah.
I just make payroll and my business account's $5,000 in the hole.
Right. After I got through all that stuff, I learned this little things I used to, one thing that was a long running thing at Garrett Auto Truck, we'd give house accounts. Well, I quit that. I think I have 3 house accounts because the problem I was running into, people are running their business on our business money. You come in and get your truck done the first of the month. I have to wait 30 days. If I'm lucky,
yeah,
more like 45 to get paid.
Yep.
That was causing a problem. We were running a receivable sheet at one time for $200,000. Okay, a business that side cannot sustain that kind of freaking money because it was just waiting.
Yep.
I'd be sitting there waiting for the mail to come in so I could pay our bills. So I just slowly started shutting them off. These little things that you learn over the years. And now you're over the counter and everybody has a credit card. Okay, and I got in our one shop management group, I charge 3% credit card fee. Because some of our bills are 20, 25 grand. It takes a lot of money.
And they
off
charge
a
you
bill,
3%. Absolutely.
right?
Yep.
So these people are flaming. Who does that? Well, I started this a while ago. Well, now everybody's doing it. The Secretary of State does it.
Yep.
Okay, you cannot. Mr. Visa's or Mr. Mastercard's getting richer and richer. Think about it. They're charging me and they're charging the customer
Yep.
if they don't pay it off.
That's so true. Yeah.
They're getting there's a double prong. What a
Yep.
great business model.
That's a great business. Yeah.
Yeah. So, we do that. There's just lots of things that we've had to change. It's crazy. We don't take checks anymore.
Were checks usually probably the most dominant thing you'd take?
Yeah, for a long time. But then, now with the credit card fee, we force people, they could take a certified check, but then you got to watch now because people can print them on their printer.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it's getting tougher and tougher out there. And, like a lot of these ballparks and stuff like that, you see how they're all like cashless. It's all with your credit card.
Yep.
You kind of can understand why, because you get all these guys walking up and down the stands. Money was going missing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I don't know how that all worked, but so I kind of understand that. But think how much more power we're giving to the credit card, how much money we're giving to the credit card companies doing all this stuff.
It's a ton.
Yeah.
It's like the Office Space, the movie, where it's like a fraction of a penny. Like,
Yeah.
They're getting 3%.
Yeah. So, we've kind of done that. I mean, so far now we have a pretty good customer base. We don't have a lot of repeat customers like we used to. It seems to me like, I don't know, I ran into something like, say you get to be a decent relationship with a manager and you for years you have a good working relationship, then all of a sudden he gets promoted, and then the new guy comes in, he needs to prove himself.
Yeah. Yep.
I've run into that a lot. There's a lot of changes, and
Yep.
a lot of these younger guys don't understand a fleet. Like I had a guy the other day for an old folks home. You'll laugh at this one. The exhaust manifolds are leaking on this bus, so it's literally, you can smell exhaust when you're sitting there driving the bus or you're sitting there idling. Well, it came in for a DOT inspection. Well, one of the things on a DOT inspection, if it's before the driver's seat, you cannot have an exhaust leak. It can make you go to sleep, right? Carbon monoxide poisoning. So I failed the DOT and these exhaust manifolds. The fleet manager I used to deal with all the time, he knew what was up. If I called him and said exhaust manifolds are leaking, he'd be like, oh my God, fix them. I don't want people going to sleep.
You've got old people. You're driving on the bus. Yeah.
Young guy says to me, what's the problem? I said, well, you can't have an exhaust leak. Why not? I said, if I have explained to you why not to have an exhaust leak, you shouldn't have the job you have. How long have you had that job? Slick. Well, I've had this job for 3 months, but I have 3 years experience as a mechanic. Well, if you know anything, you can't have an exhaust leak where you're putting people. That's the problem we run into nowadays. Uninformed, uneducated people making decisions.
Yeah.
I have a company right now that the dad is in the hospital. He's has health problems and the mom's with him. And I've dealt with him for years. One of their trucks is messed up. I can't call their office because nobody even knows how to make a decision. If I call Mike and say, hey, this is what's going to happen with your truck, he'll take care of it. I know you're going to, these other people. So what's going to happen when all these older fellas that know what's going on with their companies give them to their kids and us trying to, if he doesn't know what to do with the trucks, is he going to know what to do with the other part of the business? That's the problem we're running into with a lot of this stuff. I don't know about you. When you ever have a company nowadays and they come out and do a service, and they actually do what they say, and then they do what they say 100%, and then they leave, you're like, holy shit. That doesn't happen a lot, does it?
Yeah. It's like, when you can advertise that we'll do what we say, and that's a perk. that's weird. It is crazy. Yeah. It makes our jobs easier because we just go and do what we say.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people out there that don't.
Yeah, and I tell my people all the time, if you don't know, tell the customer I don't know, but I can get you the answer. I said it's a lot easier if you never lie. You never have to remember the truth. So just tell them
Yeah.
what's up.
Yeah.
I don't know this, but I'll get you the answer.
Yep.
I said make sure you call them back. I said there's one of us that have the answer.
For me being in sales my whole career, the worst thing possible, you talk about the mistakes coming back, is like if you lie, if you forget something, if you make a mistake and you don't tell a customer about something, they find out and then they come in pissed, and I'd watch salespeople across my career that they'd see a customer of theirs pull up and they'd be like, they remembered the lie they told them and realize what's about to catch up. And they're like, oh shit. And they'd run in the back. I never wanted to feel that way.
No.
I wanted my clients to come in and even if there was a problem, we'd sit down and understand what it was. And they knew that I was there to fix it for them and not that I did that on purpose or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I bought a boat a week ago, and I called the salesman after the fact. I said, you sold me a trailer with no freaking spare. I said, do you have a spare? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what size tires. I said, you should know. You're the salesman that sold me it. Not to mention, if you're on commission, you could have made a little bit more on the tire, but it doesn't seem you care. I said, so let me know. Text me if you have one. I'm going to go and I want to pick it up because I'm not going up north without a spare on a trailer. He never called me back. Okay. During the whole process of it, I said, I want a fish finder because I'm really interested in the depth and where the lake, so I don't freaking run my thing up on some dry, a sandbar or something. Do you have a display with the different fish finders that are on? No. How long have you worked here? I've been here 15 years. Okay. So I go to pick up the spare tire. I look, there's a display with all the fish finders on. I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, this guy never looked over there? Is he just that lazy? Or is that the one he sold me, the one he had in stock? Which is it?
Well, though, they had a training. They, when they bring out a new product, they let everybody know.
Right.
This is the latest and greatest, and let's get excited about it.
So I just told them when I picked up the spare tire, I went over there and I said, oh, hey, don't worry about the spare tire. I took care of it myself because obviously you're not worried about it because you got my money already. Well, that's not the case. I go, that's exactly the case. Then all of a sudden he's a leg humper, he's over there doing whatever. But it's just like, why, if you're a salesman, I'm going to sell. If I was a salesman, I would have had all the answers. I would have sold you. I wouldn't have sold me the Hummingbird 5. You would have got the 15, and you would have got the gold case that goes around it. You got 3 spare tires because you have 4. I would just, you know what I mean? Hey, you should do this. Hey, and people, if they're buying something, they're already in the mood. You already have their acceptance. You might as well sell them the spare tire. Who the hell would not sell a spare tire? Don't you think that's like so elementary? If you sell somebody a trailer, just sell them a spare tire.
Absolutely.
Then you can sell a spare tire carrier too. Like, I just could not believe that you wouldn't sell somebody a spare tire. I guess that's just where I think. My wife says, well, you're an overachiever.
Yeah.
Well, my friend Shane sent me a thing last night. It said, if people tell you too much, say, well, I'm not enough for some people. If I'm too much for you, what does that say about you?
It's so true. But like when you were saying that, it's like you're on this show for a reason, like you're for the third time, because you are solving, like when people are listening to this, there's so many problems that you've encountered that you've had to figure out how to make money, how to pivot, how to you've had to solve so many problems, going all the way down to the cranes we talked about in the first episode, but when going through COVID and coming up with a sprayer and doing this extra service in order to make money for Motor City as they're struggling through COVID.
Yeah, and you know what? I wouldn't change it. And I will tell you what it's done for me. I can make a decision like that. I can make a decision quick. Like some decisions that people have to think about for 2 or 3 days, I can make a decision. It might be wrong. God darn, I'll make it.
Yeah.
And I'm not over here saying that I've fixed everything and I know all the answers because I've screwed some shit up. And that's the one thing I believe that these people that are super successful, they'll tell you their shortcomings, won't they?
Absolutely.
It's the guys that are the small business owners that are so arrogant, they act like they've never screwed anything up.
Yep.
I've screwed plenty of shit up. And I just look at it and go, well, I screwed that up. I still, right in front of my guys, I'm like, yep, I screwed that up. What are they going to do? Judge me? Like, no, I'm honest.
Absolutely. It helps them be more honest. And if we think about employees from a big landscape, I read a book a couple years ago, and it's talking about when the new CEO took over Ford, and he was going to the departments and trying to like fix the problems and get out of bankruptcy and all that kind of stuff. And he was going and like asking department heads like, what do you see wrong? Or like trying to get them to admit their faults and their mistakes. But they came up through a corporation where if you admitted you were wrong, you were fired. And so these people are like blaming other people. They're pointing the fingers. They're not going to take the blame because they've been raised in a culture that if I say that I'm the blame, then I'm obsolete.
Yeah.
What this person wanted to do was to get them to own the mistake in order to move past the problem, right? And when finally they're able to do that,
Yeah.
but until then, you're pointing fingers and you're not going anywhere.
Yeah, that was Jim Mullally, wasn't it?
Yes.
You know, it's kind of funny you say that because I had a guy who worked for me. He worked for me for 30 years, 29 years, and he could not make a decision to save his life. His career, he was a great mechanic, but what I realized when I stopped making his decisions for him, his drivability, his skills and everything were all there, but he couldn't make a decision on what to sell. I would look at him and go, okay, sell him this, this, and this, and that should take care of that. He'd be like, right up, and he would go on. But the minute I said, you know, you're going to have to grow. You've been doing this long enough to know how to fix it. He could not do it. He started coming up with all kinds of different ways to basically not make a decision because he did not want to be wrong.
Wow. Yeah.
And I swear to you, it was like, at first, it took me a minute to grasp that what he was doing. Like he would make 101 excuses why he couldn't say, hey, this is what's wrong, because he was so afraid of being wrong. And when you were wrong, though, he would freaking get out the noose, freaking spotlights. He was going to hang you and freaking poke you. Like he always wanted to point out everybody else, but we were all there to make a mistake. And if you think that you're going to be in our business and say, okay, hey, it needs this coil pack, and you're just going to fix it 100% of the time, you're going to misdiagnose something. It happens all the time.
Yep.
Okay, but you know, you could look at it and say, yeah, I screwed that up. I'll take the part up, whatever, send it back, you know. But that guy would not make a decision. And I thought about that. His life, everybody was making his decisions for him. He was never steering his own boat.
That sounds horrible.
It really does. And, you know, and like I said, I make some knee-jerk decisions. Sometimes I'm like, fucking A, why'd I do that? And I made deals with people where I'm like, I really wish I wouldn't have made that deal, but I will follow it through till the end and then say, okay, that was a bad idea. You know what I mean?
Yep.
A lot of people just won't do that, or they're afraid to fail. Like, you know.
Well, and it makes me laugh because as we're talking about it, like I think of how many times have you made the mistake, learned from it, and moved on before he hasn't even moved, right? Because he hasn't made the decision, he hasn't taken any kind of action, like he hasn't learned anything, he hasn't made any kind of progress or actually did the thing because he's stuck in this decision where you've already made the mistake and learned and moved on.
Absolutely. And it's, you know, and you talk about people's fears, you know, hinder them and stop them and stuff like that. Like if I was to sit here and tell you that I wasn't nervous about going back to jiu-jitsu after being off for 3 years?
Yeah.
You're wrong. I was like, I'm not going to, I was sitting there going, man, so many times I wanted to do it, then I'm like, you know what? I don't, I've gained a bunch of weight. Nah, I don't really want it. Like, so when I quit drinking, I'm like, okay, I feel like shit. Now that I quit drinking, I feel better. Then I started doing jiu-jitsu, and I'm down in like the 240s now, and I'll be going down to the 220s, no problem. But I've already lost like 29 pounds. And I've been doing it twice a week now, and I feel better, I feel stronger. But, you know, my biggest problem was my mind. Like, I was making up problems that weren't even there. You know, my cardio now, I go with one of the black belts there, Danny Barry, and we go 55 minutes usually, nonstop. And it gets hard. Yep. It is hard. Like my fingers hurt even.
Yeah.
But I do it now, and I'm 53 years old. Now that's an accomplishment. I'm like, okay, I kind of overcame that hurdle too. So, you know,
we make those bullshit excuses. We say, oh, I'm too heavy. I have too many pounds on me. Like we have all these reasons why we can't do it to keep us back in our little comfort zone.
Yeah. You know, I've gotten a lot calmer in probably the last 10 years. You think I'm intense now. I was so freaking intense. Like I would want to get out of the car and get out of the truck when I was driving. Like this guy's an asshole talking about myself. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've definitely chilled out. It's really hard for me sometimes because I look at everything a lot different than everybody else. And I believe different. I'm going to double down on different. At this point, double down. It's worked for me, right? But I always use like the analogy, like, okay, when my wife pulls her car up next to the garbage can, and it's a windy day, she doesn't think nothing about the wind blowing the garbage can into the car. I pull in the driveway, see the garbage can next to the car, go, holy shit, that's going to blow into the car.
Yep.
That's a different type of work.
Yep.
Now, my wife doesn't seem to have stress. She has me for all that, right?
You do all the stressing.
I do all the stressing out. And so I don't know how your relationship with your wife is. My wife is like, she doesn't get bent out of shape about shit like that. It's not that big a deal. If you dent the car, you have a body shop, but that's not the point. You hit the curb. She's just like, it's just a car. It's a Navigator. It's a 2024 Navigator.
It's not just a car.
It's not just a car. Like, and I'm not materialistic. I mean, everybody knows that. Like, my son drives my Corvette. I don't give a shit. He's 16 years old. He drives my C8 Corvette.
Yeah.
But he went to driving school with me, so he is educated at driving that car. You know what I mean? So my friend, or Jason Spencer, took my Harley when he was in the shop. He rode my new Harley. I could give a shit. Like, it's just that type of stuff. I think that when you have success, if you can't share it with people, what good is it? How many people have you known over the years that are very wealthy, but they only buy stuff they can enjoy by themselves? You know them people.
Yeah.
You go to their house and say you don't have a Harley, and they have two. Oh, you like riding motorcycles? Yeah. Oh, you like this? Yeah. What do you think of that car? Oh, that's great. You wait for them to go, hey, let's take them for a ride. But they never do, right?
Yeah.
You've seen them people, been around them people too.
Yep.
So.
But then you have the people that are like, they pull up with the car and say, let's go for a ride. Here, you drive it.
Yeah.
And you always remember that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I told my one employee, I pulled in my C7 Corvette when I had it. The one guy, John, worked at Motor City. He's like, can I take your car to 7-Eleven? I threw him the keys. He's like, really? I said, I don't give a shit. Take it. Just don't kill yourself in it. It's insured.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that people should enjoy what you have too, as long as it doesn't hurt. So, I know a lot of people that are pretty wealthy. The guy that owns Trichicon does twice a year. He does a fellowship thing where he rents Rooster Ranch out, and you can invite whoever you want. That can't be cheap.
Yeah.
But he's like, if you can get people together for fellowship and prayer, everybody goes there. I bet you there's probably 100 people that go there. I bet you it's a couple $100 a person at least.
Yep.
You eat your breakfast, lunch, and then you hunt twice. Like, it's expensive.
Absolutely.
But guys like that, he enjoys taking care of people, having fellowship. So anyway,
that's killer. And I think to wrap it up, it's through 3 episodes, and I love that we talked a big chunk about finding people, because I think if the right people are listening to this content and stuff, like what you stand for, what you've built, you'll have the right people coming. Like, again, when you guys retire, the experience is gone, but not if you can grab the guys like Jason, right? Mentor them, show him, then he can mentor and show other people, and you pass down that knowledge through experience, right? Through the right experience.
And I have to retire because Jim will be in the old folks home, and after I retire, I have to go visit him. Jason's young enough, so he'll be handling it. No, you know what? Maybe, who knows? Maybe my son, he has his own business, and he's booked all the way through July now.
That's awesome.
He got up this morning at 6 o'clock. I go, what do you do? He's like, I got 6 cars to do there. Yesterday, he got up at 6 o'clock. On a Sunday, he had 8 cars. So he's making, he's killing it. So,
that's awesome. We're going to have Lincoln on in mid-July.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. I haven't had anybody that age that has been running their business for a couple of years and is doing it the right way. He's building something that's awesome.
It's kind of crazy. He's learning about taxes. He has an LLC, and he's got to do payroll now. And he's just like, man, Dad, they're all over you with these taxes. Somebody's got to buy the mansions, buddy.
Someone's got to support Afghanistan.
Right. Right, exactly.
Or wherever we're supporting right now. I don't even know.
Who knows nowadays?
It's going everywhere.
Yeah, Ukraine.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Cool deal.
But, man, it's so funny. My wife was like, what are you guys going to talk about? And I'm like, I don't know, but there's always something. And it's like 2 hours later, here we are, and we can probably keep going. But
no, I just talk about a lot of stuff, and like I said, it's like if I was to sit here and act like I had all the answers, I didn't. There's a lot of freaking looking in the mirror going, holy shit, hold on.
Yeah. Learning on the fly, not being afraid to make that mistake.
But I didn't die.
You didn't.
It didn't die. I made it.
But did we die?
Yeah, exactly. Good deal.
Dude, Kevin, thanks as always.
All right, yep.